Hello, welcome back to the podcast. This is a moment in time. I'm
Season
Albert.
2, episode 2.
Yep, season 2, episode 2. I am Albert. This is Alex.
That is my name.
It is, in fact, your name. uh, Today, we are going to be talking about something interesting that happened recently. It was actually this past Monday, so hopefully we don't release this super duper late, but we're talking about the M3 release from Apple, all of those, the new lineup that came with that, as well as the chips themselves. That's going to be the main focus, but we also have like one or two other articles relating to Apple that we pulled out as well in case we have time. So, yeah, without further ado, Alex, did you have any initial takeaways from the things that you heard about this lineup?
Well, my first question is just so we know what basis we're basing this on. Are you pro or anti-Apple? Like, what is your opinion on Apple and their products?
So I am neither pro or anti-Apple. I actually really like my iPad Pro. I have an iPhone, but my desktops, like my computers, have always been Windows oriented. I haven't even really touched Linux either, but I do at some point want to get an iMac or a Mac OS system just to utilize it. Likely, the purpose behind it would be around either video editing or music production, something along those lines, or even maybe even development if I wanted to do like iPhone or Mac development in some level. At that point, I would want one of those systems. But at this time, I have never gotten a Mac computer. I have had the iOS phones before, like the iPhones and stuff like that.
You're still on an iPhone, right?
Yeah, I'm on an iPhone, and I really love my iPad. I think the Apple Pencil is fantastic. It's the best.
It comes bundled with that. You bought that separately.
I bought that separately, so it was expensive. Not gonna lie, not even gonna lie there. But but the products themselves, I've really appreciated. I have a laptop that I bought recently that's also like touchpad and had a pen that I bought with it separately, and the pens do not compare at all. It's like it's not even close. So yeah, that's what I'll say. How about yourself?
I feel back in the day, like high school and even like early college, I would say I was more pro Apple. I think over time I've become less and less pro Apple. I don't really care for their products anymore or anything. I had an iPhone, but then I don't even remember which iPhone it was. It might have been like the 10 or something. It was like the first. I remember when they announced it was like $1,000. I'm like, that's a little ridiculous for a phone. And then after that, I jumped ship to Google Pixel, and I've had my beautiful Pixel Android phone ever since.
Right.
And I love my Android phone. I like the customizability of it. I guess I'll just leak my entire home screen. But like I have like the apps installed that I customized it. Like so I got the JoJo going on, and I could like tap it and it switches between all the JoJo characters.
Right.
I like that, and yeah, I really enjoy it, especially the Pixels too. The Pixels have a lot of good software that I like that I never really had in the iPhone. In terms of computers, I've never had a Mac or anything. I've had no interest because I've always been, a gamer at heart. And one thing that Mac is not known for is infamously known for is that they're not good for gaming.
Right.
So I've never had any interest in ever getting a Mac. Obviously, like you said, getting it for like digital production coding. That's really what they're known to be used for. In terms of like, I really just use it to watch YouTube and play video games. And Macs are not known for playing video games.
Right.
The only Apple product I still have, I don't know, is it up there? Yeah, right up there. My iPad from I don't even know what iPad it is. It's old. It's old. I think it is. I think it might be a Pro, but it might literally be like the first generation Pro. Like it is old. I had that since like high school, and I literally just use it to watch YouTube when I don't feel like watching it on my computer. Like I feel like laying in bed and the phone screen is too small. That's literally all I use it for. I don't use it for anything else besides just watching videos on. Yeah, so I really kind of have waned off the Apple. I have considered getting an Android tablet, but like Android tablets suck.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one thing that Apple definitely I think has the foothold on is the tablet market. iPad's just too good.
Yeah.
Android tablets are just not made well. But I have no interest in getting a new iPhone. I have no interest in getting any type of Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I just feel like they're kind of overpriced, and a lot of times they get features that Android has had for like 5 years, and then they just give it like a cool new name, and they justify like raising the price like $100.
Right. Right.
Like, I mean, obviously Android does the same thing back, but I feel like Apple is usually more like the one that is trying to play catch up. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
in that regard.
I don't know too much about like what the Pixel or the like some of the competitors offer. I really like my phone, and that's all I
Hmm.
really know. I think I have the
Yeah,
12, the iPhone 12. Um,
it's not like not like a Pro or anything,
it's
just the
not it's
base.
not the Pro,
Well,
it's the base one. It only has two cameras on it. But I really like it. I used to have a Samsung Galaxy, like that was the line that I was following for a long
yeah.
time, and I just hated how buggy they were. They were always buggy all the time. And I don't know if
Hmm.
it was something that I had done or if it was something just in the software itself, but that was
Mm.
the thing that I hated the most. And that was something that I have never had an issue with on Apple. And
Yeah,
that's
that is one
why,
thing that Apple is good at is their like their security and like
yeah,
privacy and like because could have those like just having like good stable software.
yeah,
Um, I haven't had any problems necessarily with my Pixel, but it also be because Google makes Android, so of
yeah,
course they're gonna probably give themselves the best version of Android, right? Like I
right.
never really had like any glitches and stuff on this, and it's just like I said, like the general like software things on this phone I do really like a lot. Like there's like call screening. Like I don't ever pick up the phone anymore. If it's literally a number not in my contacts, the AI just takes care of it for me. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you know what? That works for me because 90% of the time it's spam anyway, and then it's like it answers the phone, but it's like this is Google Assistant answering your phone, answering this person's phone. What do you have to say? And then it just gives me like the text, like a speech to text of what they're saying, so I could see if it's like spam or not before I actually answer it.
Yeah.
So stuff like that I really like. And then the Pixel also has like Magic Eraser and all these like photo editing tools on it.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like that I do really like. And it's also not that expensive. I would like you like if, I don't have like a Pro. I just have like a base one, and it's usually like a it's like pretty like I would say I guess like now would be considered like mid range because I feel like like the flagship phones are always pushing like over a thousand or more.
Yeah.
This was like 600 or 700 bucks,
Yeah.
so it's more like it's a little cheaper, and I don't use my phone for like crazy things like some people, especially like it's kind of like the same reason you would get a Mac, you would get an iPhone, right? If you're doing like
Mm-hmm.
some crazy like stuff that you really want that Apple Touch on, and if you like doing a lot of like photo editing or video editing, the best way to do it is to take it on an iPhone so it can easily interact with the Mac, right? But like I literally just again, it's just for YouTube and like
Right.
Twitter. Like I don't do anything crazy on my phone, so I don't need a crazy expensive phone like what they have with iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that being said, let's discuss the M3 chips. So, this is supposedly an improvement, or it is an improvement upon their
mm,
like M line of chips. They started with the M1, then M2, and now M3.
mm.
Notably, I will say a lot of the comparisons that they did were to the M1s, although they're
I was gonna mention that.
yeah, although
I was actually thinking the same thing. And when they did show like the comparison to the M2, it was like 15% better.
yeah,
So it doesn't really seem like it's that insane of an upgrade
yeah,
compared to
a
the
lot of
M.
the improvements are like, okay, M2 is literally smack dab in the middle between M1 and M3, but like they
Yeah,
compared it to the M1 models, which, marketing, that's what that is, I
yeah.
guess.
That I was gonna say. That is another thing that Apple knows how to do is how to market the hell out of their products.
Yeah.
They are probably the best marketers in the tech industry.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like like everything they give a name to, they never call something like virtual reality. It's Apple Vision Pro. You know what I mean? Like they're always giving things a name just so they could be different from everybody else. And it works. I mean, Apple products sell like crazy. There's a reason everybody loves the iPhone.
Right.
It, oh, so.
Yeah, I think that like look, it's definitely an improvement. It's very clearly showing that, right? But some of the important things that I noticed in their discussion there, like some of the I guess big technology leaps that they were talking about would be like hardware accelerated ray tracing and hardware
Mm.
accelerated mesh shading. I
Mm.
know about ray tracing. I don't know too much about mesh shading. Do you have any experience or knowledge about that?
No, I don't. But I did want to. I know they were saying like ray tracing is finally coming to Macs. This is like a thing that I was kind of saying before. It feels like ray tracing on like Nvidia chips has been a thing for like at least a couple years now, right? It feels
Right.
so. I feel like I mean I guess like ray tracing on the Mac is cool, but like again, I'm not really using it for gaming. So I guess it's really mostly just for like 3D edit, like 3D modeling and 3D art is where you're really gonna take advantage of that. Like for
Yeah.
most of the time, when I feel like I hear ray tracing, it's people just using like, oh, like you get the realistic reflection in the video game. But also, I mean, I don't know. I could just be I have gamer brain rot. You know,
Right. Right.
that's usually the context I mostly hear it in. But I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just another
So
thing where it's like Apple is like a little behind the ball of everybody else, like, as usual.
I think the reasoning for that is because the M3 chips are a chip that contains the CPU and GPU inside of it. So,
Hmm.
like an NVIDIA board is a GPU that you just buy that board and you plug it into your PC and
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, okay, good to go.
Yes.
Or even for your laptop. Yeah, sure. For laptops too, those are, they're not necessarily integrated. They could be integrated, but
Yeah.
um,
Usually, like gaming laptops and stuff. I don't think they are. I think they just have like a smaller,
a
like a
smaller
laptop
size.
sized
Yeah.
version of the GPU. Yeah.
Yeah, but for Apple, everything is fully integrated. There's no
Yeah.
real customizability there. So,
Mm.
because of that, I mean, especially with this, it's not like they could have their CPU chips the same and then have an improved version of their
Yeah,
GPU
because
separately. It's
everything's
all one board.
proprietary.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all it's
it's not
all
as custom. Yeah, I guess yeah, it's not as customizable as a standard PC is. It's like you
yeah.
either get the M3 chip or you don't get anything.
Yeah,
So,
it's all
mm,
one chip, and so all of the stuff that we saw, they gave like a graphic where it was like the GPU architecture, the CPU architecture,
mm,
and then hardware acceleration for ray tracing, mesh shading, and then that was all on like one chip specifically, and then the big differences that they have with the different versions of that chip are the sizing of different things. So the
yeah,
M3 is like their base product. M3 Pro is bigger, has more cores, more for the CPU and GPU, higher on what is called unified memory. Yeah. So is unified? I think unified memory is similar to RAM, right? That's what that is, or
probably. You're the computer engineer. I'm the computer scientist. I just do the programming.
I wasn't 100% sure because I had never seen
Yeah,
that term thrown before.
it
I
could be just another Apple term that they just came up with, to make themselves different. It's entirely possible. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard the term before either, so I could be wrong.
yeah,
I'm not sure.
I'm not really sure because it says that I just looked it up and it says RAM and unified memory are essentially the same thing. So
Mm,
yeah, it's very similar. It just says that unified memory does not have any physical format, as it is a virtual storage management concept, and
mm.
RAM is like the physical.
RAM is the physical thing.
Yeah, it's like a physical board.
Okay.
So I guess it's kind of like a version of virtual memory that you have on
Yeah.
board, which that's a common computer architecture idea.
Mhm.
But I just had never heard of this because I've never really delved too deeply into like market chips before.
No,
So
I
yeah,
don't really know anything about these like Mac in general. Like no, I don't follow Apple at all, so I didn't even know
yeah,
like the M series chips were a thing until we watched this with the M3. Like even when they were doing the comparisons, like I mean, it could be say like I could be like like before like, oh, the M2 is like only 15% faster, but I don't know how good the M2 is.
yeah,
That 15% faster could be a big deal, but haven't really followed the lore behind these chips, I guess you could say. I don't
right,
know how good they necessarily are that the comparison is even valid. And it's like a lot of thing. That's a lot of thing that I don't like to it. Like with a lot of tech stuff now, I feel like they stray away from just giving you numbers, like the hard numbers of how
yeah,
strong something is. Everything is just like, oh, it's faster. But I'm like, okay, but what is like the actual like a hard number, you know? Or like, oh yeah, the screen on our new phone it's better. I'm like, okay, but what's the refresh rate? Like, I feel
right,
like that's a thing. That's not even just an Apple thing. I feel like that's a universal tech thing that's going on. It's just that they refuse to
yeah.
give the numbers just because it's easier for them to just say, "Oh, it's faster" or "It's better."
Well, also
When I want to hear an actual number.
there's also a huge barrier of cost now with a lot of products. So it's like once you buy something, you can't really like buy like three things and like test them and compare them.
Yeah. It's
At
like I
least the
want to know what I'm
common
getting
person
into
can.
before I purchase it, but they
Yeah,
refuse to give you the numbers now.
yeah. So the closest thing is like you can watch a YouTube video where someone does something along those lines, but
Yeah.
even then, like they might not be testing exactly what you're looking for, and they might not be
Hmm.
looking at the specific products that you care about. Maybe it's something similar. So it's really hard to like uh look at something like that and say, what does this actually mean? I
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. You have more cores on your CPU and GPU, and you have more unified memory, so more RAM. I would say
Hmm.
baseline, you probably want at least 32 typically. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like 32 gigs of RAM sounds standard at least
Yeah. I think
in the
yeah,
modern
that's
age.
usually standard. Yeah.
So to me, that says that the M3 is probably a little low for what I'm interested in, right?
Well, wait, how much RAM did it have?
The M3 is 24 gigs of RAM of
Okay.
unified
Yeah,
memory.
yeah. That's
And
just a base
so
chip, though.
I don't know if that's like I think that's the maximum of what the chip can offer.
What I'm saying is that like for the like the base chip, or did like the Pro chips have higher
Oh,
RAM
yes, yes.
capability?
So that's the base chip, and then the
Okay.
Pro chip is 36, and then the Max is 128. So it's three separate
Okay. That's
chips.
pretty,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That's a pretty big jump. 36 to 128.
yeah.
I'd figure you would have said like 36 to 64 or something. That's
I would
interesting. That's a
too,
pretty big jump.
but I mean, I guess not. But the other things here are like the 3 nanometer technology. I apparently this is like cutting edge new
Yeah, I would
things.
figured you would know more about this than me because you're the engineer, not I'm the scientist. So
Yeah, so I mean that they were talking about it, and this is just discussing how small the transistor sizes were. So
yeah, that's what I got
I
from it.
didn't know what the previous standard was, but I guess this is like the what according to them at least this is the
Mm.
smallest that you can have your transistor
Yeah.
sizes or whatever. So I'm like, that's cool. Doesn't mean a whole lot to me right now,
Mhm.
but
I
it,
mean,
it
that
was
basically just means you
interesting.
can get more performance out of like the same kind of
Yes,
space, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, these chip sizes they increase between the M3 up to the Max. So
Yeah.
that's why the chip gets bigger. But it says that the lowest, the M3 has 25 billion transistors, then 37 billion, then 92 billion. So I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
that's interesting. I don't know what the comparison would be to like an M2 in terms of the same
Yeah.
size.
Exactly.
I would have
That's what I.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Because
didn't do the
they
research into
don't give
that.
really numbers on it. They're just like, oh, 97 billion transistors. I'm like, okay, like
Yeah.
what is like the specs on the chip versus the M2, so I can make an actual, comparison.
Yeah. I guess for that, it's like you have to do your own research because the whole purpose
Yeah.
of this specific event is to highlight the M3, right? So if you want to compare
Yeah.
it to the M2, that's like you got to do your own due diligence,
Yeah.
right? Which is fine. I think that makes sense for a marketing event because
Mm.
the event is to market the M3 and the
Yeah.
products that are utilizing that chip, right? So it's
Mhm.
understandable. I think any company does that. Like all companies do that. If they're having like an announcement like this where they're saying, okay,
Mhm.
this is all this cool stuff about this new thing, and then it's up to news outlets or YouTubers or whoever else to compare it back to what pre-exists, right? So I
Mhm.
don't really fault them for doing that. I think it's just we'd have to do some research to figure that out. I I'm not planning to buy an iMac or the MacBook
The
Pro
MacBook
right
Pro,
now.
yeah.
I unfortunately, when I was doing some more research, I'm kind of upset that they don't have an iMac Mini or iMac Studio that utilizes this chip. Because if that was the case, I would consider it more so that I could just plug it into my existing
I'm sure
monitors.
that product will probably. I mean, are they does that not even like planning on coming out with something like that in the line? They just announced it.
I
Like,
mean, maybe at some point they haven't announced it. Those still use the M2 chips. That's from what I
mm.
researched today.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I imagine they would probably get an upgrade at some point, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The
So I
M2 chips,
expect
yeah.
at some point they'll get an upgrade, but I don't know if that's a year or 2 years down the line. So that's
Mhm.
something I'm going to keep my eye out for in the future, though. But yeah, at a baseline, I mean, it's an improvement in terms of what that actually means. It's kind of hard to
We'll,
tell as someone who's
we'll have to wait and see.
yeah, and I'll probably just have to look at new stuff as it comes out in terms of like people reviewing the products and comparing it back to what they already own.
Mhm.
It is a little difficult because most people purchase a new product several years after, so there's a generational gap. Even like what they were saying was they talked about some of the improvements with having the Intel chips inside their inside their products. And so I think that is probably a lot more helpful to people, which I appreciate. So
Yeah.
they were talking about some of the improvements for those in terms of, I think, like 30% improvements and stuff like that for some of those cases. So
Mm.
it seemed like definitely a bigger jump, but that's at least partially that's because they're just older Intel chips too at that time.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if anyone can really make a one-to-one comparison between like the top of the line current Windows product versus the top of the line MacBooks or
Yeah.
the
And then
iMacs that are
even
coming
again,
out.
like I was saying before, a comparison won't even really do it justice because a Windows machine and a Mac you use for completely different things.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you're getting a Mac to do whatever on, and then Windows PC you do whatever on. They have different use cases. I feel like, I mean, sure, they have areas where they could overlap and probably do just fine, but like most of the time it's like artists tend to go for the Mac. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, and other people tend to go towards a Windows. Like Macs definitely always seem like if you go to any like art lab anywhere, they're not running Windows PCs, they're running Macs.
Yeah, I do
You
think
know,
for the
so
general user, it's still like there's a huge barrier of entry for a Windows machine because
if you build it
they're
yourself, I would think.
yeah. The issue is like if you're like someone that's just using it for general purpose use, you don't really have like special use cases like either gaming or video editing
Yeah,
or music production or any of those things. It's kind of hard to justify the high price tag because there are cheap laptops that exist out
yeah.
there
That's
that
what I just did
will
for
do just
my
fine.
parents. They needed a laptop just to, like, pay bill stuff, and I literally got the cheapest laptop I could find.
Yeah, yeah,
They don't need it.
because
They just need it to be able to get on the internet, pay some bills, and
yeah,
put it in a drawer. And I
yeah,
was like, this thing's like $200. Here you go.
yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah, as long as it works, I mean, as long as you have a solid state running on it, you have a decent amount of RAM.
Yeah.
And for RAM, like even in, I'd say if you're not doing anything else, I think there's a recommendation for Windows 11 now. It's probably like it's probably around 16 or something. I don't think it would be any
I haven't
higher
even
than
upgraded
that.
to Windows 11 yet on either of my computers.
I have it
I'm
on
still on
this
Windows
one,
10.
but my laptop came with Windows 11. But
Mhm.
it also Windows 10 is losing support next year, I think, in a year.
Is it?
Yeah. So
Well, get me a virus then.
uh, but that being said, like when you're looking at this lineup here, they have the MacBook Pros that are being overhauled now.
They're coming in
So
black now too. Black,
yes,
though, I'm surprised with that because I feel like Apple's usually white is always like their color. I feel like
yes,
that's when you see especially a Mac. Like the phones have always kind of come in different colors, right? But especially like with the computers, it's always that white. Like you can see that white laptop from a distance, like, oh, that person has a MacBook.
hmm
I feel like that's always been their kind of like their brand. So for them to switch it to make a black option is definitely interesting, I think.
yeah. I really like the idea of having a black MacBook. I prefer all of my screens to be either silver, gray, or black. Like those are the
Yeah.
colors that I prefer for most of my items. And just because like the white casing can get dirty very easily and it's a
Yeah.
lot more
I agree.
noticeable. So usually a darker shade is better in my opinion, and I would go for that same idea with like even my phone and stuff like that. The only reason I have
Hmm.
the phone color that I have, which is dark blue, is because those were the options that they had there that day.
Hmm.
I didn't feel like waiting. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my thought process. I don't care too much about the color as long as it's like a decent product and you can use it to
Hmm.
your fullest fullest content. What am I trying to
Fullest
say there?
content.
Yeah,
Fullest.
fullest content. I guess to your heart's content. I guess that's a
Yeah.
better way of phrasing that. I was like, what am I trying to say there? That's not the right phrasing. As long as you can use it to your heart's content, like that's what matters. In terms of the MacBook Pro, they have a huge price range here. I mean, they're this is like a step up, I think, from their Air series, right? So I think Air is like
Is
the
it?
lower price range, and then Pro is above that.
Mhm.
And they added, so basically they added one new Air product, which is just the same product except they have it a little bit bigger, right?
Like a
have it.
larger MacBook Air.
Yeah. So they created
Yeah.
the MacBook Air 15, but that still uses the M2 chip. So that's not really that wasn't a huge
Yeah.
highlight from this announcement. But this is a brand new product that they're now offering. It does bridge the gap a little bit between the MacBook Air and the Pro series. So if you can't go all the way up to the extra like $200 or $300 to jump,
I mean, I'm sure the M2 is still a good chip too. I mean,
yeah,
like for most daily use, that you're not gonna need any better than that probably.
yeah,
Like getting like that M3 is really like if you're really like an enthusiast who's like,
yeah,
I need the best technology for what I'm trying to do on this machine.
right.
Like
I
most people
will
could be just
I
fine
will
with an
say
M2.
I prefer getting when I'm buying something, I prefer getting that's like something on the line of like what's new and what's like pretty
I do
high
too.
end at that time. So
That's so I don't have to upgrade it again as
yeah.
soon. Usually that's like when I got my my new desktop here like a couple of years ago, I
Hmm.
like went all in on like when I was looking at monitors, you get like you can get like a 1080p 120 hertz
Hmm.
or like a 4K 60. I was like, I'm just going all in and getting a 4K 120 hertz monitor, so I just don't have to upgrade them again
Yeah.
anytime soon. So
Yeah.
it's like that's like usually my logic because like go for it might be a little bit more expensive now, but it'll save. I feel like it'll save you more money in the long run because you don't have to upgrade it again as soon.
Right. And just to give people an idea, the MacBook Air 15-inch is $1,300. It's $1,299. I'm just gonna round up the $1 for everything.
Yeah, you might as well. It's
The
just easier.
the 13-inch with the M2 chip is 1,100, and then with the M1 chip it's 1,000. So that's like the ranges for the Airs, and none of this is
Mhm.
the new technology. So like that's if you
Even with the
are
M1, you said it's still 1,000.
yeah, the M1's
The
1,000.
different.
It's a
Okay.
$100 difference. So
Mhm.
I would say like I prefer a bigger screen, but even then, like with
Yeah.
laptops, I always have external displays, so I guess it's not as important. But it depends on what type of chip you want, I guess, would be the big thing. So
Hmm.
depending on if your MacBook Air is able to support more than one display, I'm not
I don't know if they
100%
do.
sure. I'm pretty sure they can at least do one external display, but
Yeah.
it does depend because it looked like I think for the pros you had to not do like the bottom of the barrel. You had to at least
Mhm.
be like a step or two up in order to get that second external display going for you. But regardless, let's actually start talking about the actual Pro series that they have here. So when you want to jump over to the Pro, the thing you're gonna have to do, if I can open this up. Oh, I had clicked into purchase this. I don't want to purchase this. Let's go back. Here we go. So the 14-inch and the 16-inch is what you're choosing between.
I see. I'm trying to look on my end here too. Let's see. I see the 14-inch is 1,600, right?
So on the M3, which is the baseline model, it's 1,600. So that's the cheapest that you can get with the lowest grade CPU GPU chip, right?
Yeah.
If you want to go all the way up to the max and you don't really care about size, so 14 inches on the M3 Max, that goes all the way up to $3,200.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a big jump.
that is a huge
That's a
jump.
little insane.
Yeah, I that is a lot of money to sink on a laptop.
I agree.
However, I think my laptop is not that expensive, but like maybe $300 or $400 less, something like that. But that was
Mhm.
because I got an NVIDIA like GeForce graphics card in my laptop, right? So
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense. It's also it's a Windows laptop. It's the Surface Studio laptop. I think that's what it's called.
Mhm.
So it's a pretty higher end laptop, so it's understandable. So that to me is like if you want to break the bank or like have a super high end machine, that's when you're going to go for the Pro.
You probably won't have to upgrade that machine for a long time. That's definitely a
Yeah.
long-term purchase at that price.
Yeah. So it has to bare minimum, I would say you should be able to last with that for like 8 years. You should not have to
Yeah,
upgrade
bare
within that
minimum. I
time.
was gonna say 10.
Yeah, probably 10 would be best. Cuz like if you're dropping that much, the low end is like $300 to $500 range, right?
Yeah.
That's like bargain, like a bottom of the barrel Windows machines, that's what you're looking at. So to jump that high, it's like you expect that device to last a very long time. Now, I
And
mean,
you're gonna use it a lot. That
yes,
you do all your work on that for
yeah,
like 10 years.
yeah. And just for reference, let's mention what's going on with the 16-inch. For this one, you have to start with the Pro. You can't have the baseline product, so you will have to basically start at 24 or $2,500, right? You can upgrade for a higher storage. Oh no, higher unified memory. That's what it is. So if you want more memory, you can upgrade to 36 gigabytes. The 2500 is for 18 gigs. So there's still a bit of nuance here in terms of the upgrades available depending on which chip you purchase. The amount of RAM is one of those things. The amount of SSD storage is another. I think those are the big things that they're highlighting between these items. So there's definitely some things to still look at to see what's important for you. And then on the highest end for the Max, you have $3,500. And then for the absolute max version of that, so the baseline is 36 gigabytes. The higher version is 48 gigabytes, is $4,000. That is the highest end that you can get.
Of money.
Yep, that is a lot. I don't know. I would have to do a lot more research and see a lot more before sinking that type
Before
of
you
cash.
making even considering a purchase like that.
Yeah. So that's just a lot to me. And this is again someone who's not really using Apple products, right? So, or not really using their desktops and laptops. So that's, for me, that's a little bit much. That's a lot for the common person. I think that if you are under the age of 25, you probably shouldn't be getting these laptops. Like if you're not paying your own bills yet, don't get these laptops because no, like that's just financially irresponsible to me. There's so many lower I don't want to say lower grade options, but like more like cheaper options that exist out there that are going to be doing you just fine, and for everything that you actually need, you'll be fine. Right. So unless you are going into content creation full time, you're making the money to do that, or music production or something along those lines where you're already going to be utilizing a Mac, and there's added incentive with Final Cut Pro purchases, as well as buying something like they have a music studio, I think, as well, that you can buy, like a music yeah, they have like a music application as well that you can utilize. So unless you're already going all the way down there, that's the only time I would maybe consider this. Also, they have, if you're doing specifically like AI oriented development, they have a lot of stuff with that as well, that they said there are specific use cases for that. So, there are some things, maybe graphic design or 3D rendering, ray tracing, all of that stuff. If you're going in those very specialized areas that need super high computation power, okay, fine. But if you're just starting out, say, video editing using DaVinci Resolve or something like that, you just need
way cheaper, way better and cheaper. Well, better is not the right word. There's cheaper options that will do what you need. You don't need to go all in on something like that right out of the get-go.
Yeah, and even if you want something super high-end in terms of your GPU, you can drop $1,000 on a very high-end GPU and then just have a decent desktop beyond that, and you'll get all of that just on a Windows system, and it's going to be fine for you. Like that's what I'm doing. And so it's perfectly adequate for you to utilize a Windows machine and get a lot of the resources out of it. It's just, I feel like this is for top of the line. If you're going pro and you really need this stuff, that's when you're going to go for these higher end products.
I would agree with that.
The last thing on this lineup, though, is the iMac. So I haven't really looked at the iMac in a very long time. Have you?
Yeah, me neither. I don't know anything about it. I feel like I would know more about the MacBook than I do the iMac, and I barely know anything about the MacBook.
Yeah. So the last time I really saw an iMac was in school, like in high school. They had a few of these in like the tech lab, or I don't even really know what it was called. They had a few of them and that was really it. I never really spent a lot of time on them apart from like utilizing Audacity or like some of
Yeah.
those basic video editing things that you don't really know how to utilize because no one really taught you how to use them or whatever. Like
Mhm.
Movie Maker, is Movie Maker? Yeah, Movie Maker might be on iMac possibly. I don't really
Yeah, I'm
remember,
not sure. But
but stuff like that. I mean, but when I saw this, I will say the design of the current iMac all-in-ones look fantastic. They're
Mhm.
flat. They're literally a flat
They're,
screen.
yeah, pretty flat. Yeah.
So that to me is really cool from an engineering perspective because I'm like,
I
where?
remember like the old iMacs. They used to be like
Yeah,
inches like thick,
yeah, they'd have like the
like back in the
curvature
day.
and then gain like
Yeah.
a decent amount of thickness. So to see how thin and small that they've gotten those boards is really cool because it's like you're fitting the LCD screen and then underneath that you have the CPU and the GPU, all the cooling for that, and it's all really flat and
Yeah,
compressed. So
it is impressively
to
thin.
me, that's
It's like I said,
impressive.
especially compared to where they used to be.
Yeah. So to me, that's really cool just from an engineering perspective. But in regards to specifically the M3 chips and stuff like that, as someone personally who utilizes Windows desktop and already has a Windows laptop and everything, I would personally be waiting for a mini or like the Mac Mini or the Mac Studio to come out with this
Mhm.
chip before I consider purchasing it. The Mac
Yeah.
Mini right now with the M2 chip is at $600. The Mac Studio is at $2,000. So
Well, they just like just smaller computers. Like, what is
so
actually the
so you know how
difference?
like you have those mini PCs basically, but these ones are kind of the size of like a KVM switch. They're like this big. They're like a little puck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the Mac Studio is like thicker. It's like this tall,
Mhm.
right?
I
But
think
it's
I've
like
seen those before. Actually, I just
yeah,
didn't know the name. Yeah.
yeah. But from the top down, it's like a square, like this big.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
it's a pretty small device, and then you just plug it into a monitor. So and based off of the outputs, it looks like it just has an HDMI output you can plug into a monitor. So that's really
Mhm.
cool to me. Um,
Yeah.
but on the front of the iMac, I, I would say like same things in terms of what you're thinking about, like which chip do you want, what are you utilizing it for, and then think about whether or not you want it for travel or you just want it as a base station. I didn't see anything too crazy in terms of like a reason why I would want
Mhm.
that unless it was something specific to the M3 chips that I really wanted. So
Mhm.
again, if I wanted to do some very high end development in regards to AI development or ray tracing and stuff like that, or
Yeah.
even if I wanted to do some 3D modeling potentially, like that cool. There are some use cases there, and it's cheaper. It's notably cheaper than getting the laptops. This is $1,299, so $1,300. It's around that same price point as
Like
the Air.
the super base, the Air even. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
It
the
was. Yeah, it was
the
the Air.
15-inch Air, I think it was, is the same price point. So it's cheaper than your
Yeah.
baseline MacBook Pro. So if that's what you want and you just want to test out the chip and you don't want to spend the most amount of money, that would be your starting point.
Mhm.
I'm sure that they have other things that you can add because this is the baseline, right? It starts with 8
Does it
gigs.
come with the keyboard and the trackpad, or those are separate purchases?
I have a feeling that they're separate purchases, probably.
Knowing Apple, they probably are separate purchases.
Yeah. So
Even though
the
I don't even,
base,
you kind of still have to get them because I saw that the new ones, even though like the iPhones now are USB-C, those are still Lightning. So you
yeah.
can't just get any keyboard or trackpad. You have to get the Apple ones.
You get the Magic Keyboard, and
Oh, it comes
then
with it for the
yeah,
1300.
yeah, and then if you upgrade it, it comes with Touch ID as well on the keyboard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
See.
they're built into the purchase, which I think that makes sense. I think they
Yeah.
should do
I
that.
feel like they probably should have upgraded them to USB-C like the
Yeah,
iPhones though.
that's
The
what
fact that
people.
they're still on Lightning is a little aggravating,
Yeah,
especially after like at the iPhone reveal that they were
yeah,
all USB-C. Where I feel like everybody was kind of hoping that maybe we'll be done with Lightning for good, but nope,
yeah,
these new Macs still have Lightning.
yeah. My understanding is these are the old peripherals. They're the same peripherals that they had previously, and they're
Hmm.
just that's why it's still like Thunderbolt and or not Thunderbolt. It's still yeah Thunderbolt. Yeah, that's what it's
Lightning.
called. Uh, what is the difference between Lightning and Thunderbolt? Thunderbolt is the USB-C port, right? Basically, and then
Yeah,
Lightning is
Lightning's like the Apple
the little
proprietary one. I
nub.
think is the
Yeah, yeah,
Lightning.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
The one that was
Um,
basically on all the iPhones until the most recent one. Like
yeah,
that
yeah. Okay.
connecting is a Lightning connector. Yeah.
Yes, I believe I have a Lightning. I don't know if you could really
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. I see that.
Yes. So that is annoying. But I feel like when you wait a few years, it'll probably upgrade to USB-C
Hmm.
at some point. That's kind of
And
the hope.
I feel like they probably should. I mean, if I was Apple, I would have just done it now. Just get everything to USB-C. Just get it over
Yeah,
with instead of continuing to drag people along with the promise of USB-C and just not doing it on everything at once.
yeah.
But
I do wonder if you have a Thunderbolt splitter, you could probably plug in a USB-C keyboard at that point.
probably, but that's such a hassle. Just
It
make it
is. It
USB-C.
is. It is a hassle, 100%. However,
Lightning is still so stupid. It's so annoying when people ask. This has been like a problem for forever. People ask for a phone charger and you have to specify Apple charger or Android charger. Everything
yeah,
should just be one type of charger.
I
It's
agree.
so ridiculous.
I agree with that. Same thing
Makes
with
so much electronic waste. All
yeah,
these cables. Just
I
make
agree with that.
everything should just be like USB-C, and that should be it.
I don't think companies should have their own proprietary like cables and connectors because I'm
No,
like
it just
that's
makes it, like I said, it just makes electronic waste.
yeah, I think they should all just be like IEEE standards that everyone has to follow because
I agree. Because you know how
otherwise it's
many
so
USB-C
annoying.
cables people probably have? Like
Yeah.
like it just saves so much hassle. Like instead of every time buying a new product, you have to get a new cable with it too.
Yeah.
Just make it so that I could just use one cable for everything.
Yeah. But the baseline product here is with 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, 256 gigs storage, and then 8 gigs of unified RAM. So that's pretty low end, honestly, now that I'm reading
That is
that. So comparing,
for 1300, I would have expected a little bit more
yeah.
than the
So
specs. I feel like
comparing that, I mean, I guess maybe because it's an all-in-one, but like honestly, I don't even think that's saying much. I think that Apple is like the only all-in-ones that people really look at this point, but
you cut out there for a second. They're the only ones that.
oh, I think Apple is the only ones that have like solid all-in-ones. I don't know any other all-in-ones that really.
You keep cutting out. I think there might be something up with your mic or something.
Oh no.
There's only just like the past like 10 seconds, but you cut out again right when you. It's like Apple doesn't want you cursing their name. For every both times, it's like you got Apple, the only company that, and then I saw lips moving, but no speaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so what I was saying was something.
Apple's the only company. Something about their
Oh,
software.
yes. In regards to all-in-ones, Apple is the only one that like you really think about. I feel like for all-in-ones with the Mac, I feel like most other companies you don't really think about them apart from
Is there even? I don't even know if are there all-in-ones like that for Windows and stuff. I have no idea.
There are.
Mac. It's just like such a Mac thing.
Yeah,
I feel like I don't.
I've only seen them in like the medical industry where like you have their med stations and they have like an all-in-one for those because they're easier to travel with in like a cart. But beyond that, I don't really see them utilized anywhere else in like the mainstream, like the populace.
No. I mean, it's almost kind of like the same thing like I was saying before with the tablets. Like I mean, there's other tablets, but like iPad is easy. Like as even someone who doesn't even like Apple.
Yeah.
No one's beating iPad.
Yeah.
Like. Android tablets are nowhere near the level that iPad is.
Yeah. You're going to love this. You have to upgrade to the second one in order to get gigabit Ethernet. There's no option. There's no option for the first one.
It's just Wi-Fi only?
I assume the first one might be Wi-Fi only. That's what it looks like. Because it just has two dashes.
How does Apple get away with this?
It just has two dashes.
How do they charge $1,300 for a computer that can't even connect to Ethernet? That's actually kind of
that's really funny.
I know when we first started this, we're like, oh, that doesn't sound that terrible. But the more we look into this, that seems almost like I feel like I'm almost getting kind of scammed at this point for $1,300.
Unless it's no kilobit Ethernet and they're embarrassed, so they don't even say it. You know.
That would be so bad.
That would be really funny.
You get kilobit internet. I'd rather just run on the Wi-Fi at that point. I feel like that's crazy.
And so then there's a mid-range for 1500 and then the high range is 1700.
Was the gigabit only on the highest range or was that on the mid-range?
Mid-range is when you get Ethernet. Oh, okay. And then the only other stuff that changes, so when you go to the mid-range, you get 3 extra USB ports. You start with all the models 2 Thunderbolt, 4 USB ports.
Mm.
or USB 4 ports. No, I think Thunderbolt is USB 4 ports because it says two Thunderbolt slash USB 4 ports. I think USB 4 is the standard.
USB 4 must be Thunderbolt then, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the standard that it's referring to. And then, so if you want USB 3 ports, you have to get the mid-range. So you start with 2, and that's the max.
So what is the point of getting this low range? This low range option is sounding less and less appealing as we go on here.
I think it's just to say that you've purchased an iMac, honestly.
I think they just did it so they could put it starting at $1,200, but nobody's ever buying that option. That option sounds terrible.
Well, I think
so they can put a lower price tag on all the ads.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, the only other thing is like maybe lower income accessibility, but I feel like if you're lower income,
still a $1,300 computer. I don't know how much lower income accessibility that really is.
Perhaps it's like partially like the romanticization of Apple products, right?
Yeah.
And then you say, okay, well, I know it's breaking the bank. It's breaking the bank, but I'm going to get that baseline product, and they're going to be dissatisfied with that baseline product. So,
like that, Apple could just get away with these kinds of prices because they're Apple.
Yeah,
they have the brand recognition. It's no different from like back in the day when they were selling like Supreme T-shirts for like $100, or just a white T-shirt with a red box on it.
Yeah,
it just had the name recognition.
Yeah, so I think that it's a lot. It's a good amount of money. I think if you wanted to purchase it, you're going to be getting the 1700 one. So you should be comparing like what you're actually going to get to the other things in that area.
Those low range options really do sound very unappealing.
Yeah.
The more we talk about it.
Mid range, I mean, the big difference is storage and then unified memory.
Yeah, but I
just realized actually no, all three of these have 8 gigs of unified memory. That's nothing. That's 8 gigs of RAM.
That's pretty bad. This is why nobody uses Macs for gaming.
Oh my god! This is why
they're not gaming machines.
Yeah, so the only upgrade is when you go from the low end to mid grade, you get the ports, which fine, peripherals, and then and gigabit internet. That's the same when you upgrade further to the maximum version. However, the things that it's highlighted are the cores. For CPU and GPU, storage, and unified memory. Cores stay the same between mid and high for both CPU and GPU. So those don't change. Unified memory stays the same between mid-range and high-range. The only difference that you're paying an extra, $200 for an extra 256 gigs of storage.
And honestly, people are probably going to buy that because it's Apple product and it's not easy to get more storage for. It's not like a Windows machine where I could just put another SSD in it and call it a day, I feel like.
You can. An external drive.
On the Mac, can you?
Yeah, you can buy an external drive. There's a particular format that you have to put it in. So this is a waste that's a waste of money to go to that high-end version of that Mac.
If they support external drives. I was thinking more like getting a new internal drive so I don't have to walk around with an external hard drive or
it's a Mac anyway. They're gonna have.
I know that's what I'm saying is that you can't easily just get more internal storage. Like for my desktop here, I ran out of storage and I just put another internal SSD in it.
I mean, for the iMac, it's going to sit at one table forever because it's a Mac. It's not a MacBook. So you can just plug in.
I guess it doesn't matter. I still prefer just having it internal though. If I was me.
I disagree because you could buy like 2 terabytes for $100. Now
for an SSD or hard drive?
Yeah, for an SSD. You can buy like 2 terabytes. So I would much rather do that, format it to your Mac, and use that as your secondary storage. I don't think there are any big problems with that because at least with the ones that we had in college, like access to at university, you just plug in your external hard drive and it was fine. So as long as it's formatted that way, like it's good. So that to me, that price tag makes no sense. Yeah, so the mid-range to me would be the only one that's really worth it. So that's $1,500, and then if you want, spend that extra $100 for a hard drive that you can plug in, and that's all you're really going to get because 512 gigs of storage is really minimal for an extra $200.
That's pretty minimal for PCs in this day and age.
So I don't know. The more I look at this iMac, I don't really like it. I would say personally, I would wait for the Mini or the Studio to see and compare those, and once they have the M3 chip, see if I can purchase that, get another external if I need to for that, and see how that goes. So that would be my preference. Although there might be some, yeah, because it's not like you're looking for a, it's not like it's going to have reduced performance because of the size, because it's the same chip, right? And that's the
Yep.
GPU CPU. So I would expect, as long as they have decent airflow inside of that thing, I would expect just to wait for those, because these iMac products, or the options that they have here, don't sound very appealing to me personally.
No, they really don't.
I would much rather get the MacBook Pro if I had to choose between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if I had to choose, I would get the MacBook Pro.
That
Just
makes
do a lot
sense.
of research in terms of what you actually need there, and yeah, just try to stay informed. So that's all I'll say there. Do you have anything else to say on that topic?
No, I think you pretty much hit it all.
All right. So we did have a couple other articles here as well that we were looking at. Specifically, there was the new pencil that they have that came out.
Yep.
So they didn't talk about this in the Monday video, but this had come out, I think, a little bit before that, where they were talking about a new version of the Apple Pencil. And I think that it's a decent amount cheaper. I think it was like $60 or $70.
It was it's $20 cheaper. It's $79.
Yeah. So it's $79, but
Well, sorry, it's that $20 is cheaper than the first generation.
yeah.
It's $50 cheaper than the second generation.
Yeah.
Pencil.
So I think that if you're going and checking between the first generation and the Apple Pencil, get the USB-C Apple Pencil that they just came out, get the USB-C Apple Pencil, because you
Well, it
just
depends on what you're using it for. Because the USB-C one doesn't have any pressure sensitivity.
But
if you're an artist, you don't want this one.
yes, sure. However, if you're using this for note taking and just like other stuff, you're not specifically using it to draw with pressure sensitivity, I would get this pencil instead.
I mean, it's also it's just being USB-C is a huge plus.
Yes.
Over the Lightning.
I appreciate that a lot more. My personal choice will always just be the second gen Apple Pencil. It's more expensive. It's $50 more, right?
$50 more than the new cheap model.
It's $130. So yeah, it's $50 more. That's what I have. That's what I've been using. I really like it. Has pressure sensitivity, and it has wireless charging. But
I'm assuming it works. Does it work for just only Apple devices?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
However, the weird thing with this though is I don't actually know what products match which pencils, right? I don't know if it's all of them are across the platforms. I do know that depending on your iPad, you cannot charge with it wirelessly. It might have the magnet capability, but it might not have the charging.
Depending on what iPad you have, it depends if the pencil could charge wirelessly or not.
Yeah, I think so. So there's some confusion there in terms of what the specific pencil will connect to and stuff like that.
And speaking of confusion, I don't like that they're all just named Apple Pencil.
Yes, even the article I sent you even specifies that they're all just called the Apple Pencil, and it's confusing to figure out what.
Because an average consumer, they're probably just going to need the cheapest one and be like, maybe it must be on sale, and then they find out, like, they give it to their grandma who only has lightning cables and she can't get it to work.
Yeah. So I will say, like, if you're gonna buy one of these, they have a compatibility section at the bottom of their page. Just make sure it works with what you're looking for. I do, if I remember correctly, there are pencils that do not match with like newer versions of the iPad, because I believe
Probably
the newer
first
version of
generation one, I would imagine.
the newer, no, I think the second generation doesn't work with some of the newer iPads because
How could that be? If it's a more
because
recent
they
one?
moved where the camera is located, and as a result you could no longer have charging at the top. So they moved the camera, I believe, from the side to the top, and then
Yeah, a lot of tablets are doing it now, which just makes sense.
Yes.
I never understood why they had that I had to hold it vertical.
Yeah.
99% of the time, people's tablets are horizontal.
Yeah.
I don't. Nobody has a tablet vertical.
Yes, but they figured out how to do that and couldn't figure out how to keep it charging on top. So I think that's why they then started utilizing the Gen 1 pencil again, because they
Mhm.
couldn't charge it on like the newer versions of the iPad. If anyone knows for sure, tell me below if I'm like completely wrong on this, but that's been my understanding over the past year, that the Apple II Pencil
Yes.
doesn't really
Well,
work with
that
the
makes
newer.
sense because I was confused by reading the article. Why, if they have a second generation pencil, why are they still selling the first generation
Yeah.
ones?
Yeah.
Usually that would just make the first one obsolete. But what you said, then that makes sense why they're selling 3 versions of the Apple Pencil at the same time.
Yeah, it's really confusing for no reason. They just need to name them differently, honestly. Like they should just
That
call
is
it.
another thing I have problems with in just like tech and everything. Is naming has gotten so bad.
Yeah.
Nobody names anything good anymore. It's like I don't know. It's just not even just a tech thing. It's just like an anything thing. I like when they like make a sequel to like something like a movie or a game, and then they just
Mhm.
call it like one, like the new Mortal Kombat. It's like the 12th one. It's called Mortal Kombat One.
Yeah.
So when I say Mortal Kombat, when I'm talking, if I'm talking to someone, I'm like, oh yeah, Mortal Kombat One's a good game. It's like, are you talking about the new one or the first one? I don't know.
Right.
It's just confusing now. There's no reason to call it that. That stuff drives me crazy.
Yeah, I'm checking the first gen because I might actually be wrong, based off of what I'm seeing in terms of the compatibility lists here. Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's the 7th and 8th gen iPads.
Well,
Seven.
those are the newest ones.
Are
I don't know what.
those?
See, isn't that the thing with iPads too? They don't ever like. Don't they just all call like iPad, iPad Pro? That's what I'm saying. Like, I have no idea what iPad I have because it's just called iPad or iPad Pro.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like the phones. They don't give them a number.
Yeah, so the iPad, all the iPads, they like baseline iPads, they don't work with the version 2 of the Pencil. Same thing with the new Apple Pencil as well. So I'm not 100% sure on that because they say iPad's generation 6 to 10. I don't know how that compares to release dates for the Pros and the Airs. I have no idea. So
Yeah, I have no idea what
that's really
generation. I would have no idea
confusing.
what generation of iPad they're even on. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine if 6 to 10. I imagine 10 is the most recent one then.
Yeah, but the iPad Pro is up to 3rd or 4th gen. Yeah, it's on 4th gen right now. Or sorry, 5th gen right now. Nope, I just keep seeing higher numbers. 6th gen is the iPad
This is
Pro.
so confusing. Please, Apple,
Yeah.
I beg of you, name your products with good names. Stop just calling them all iPad. Why is the phone the only one that gets the number? Why is it not just called like iPad Pro 6 and make it
Yeah.
easy for me? Why is it
Yeah.
iPad Pro 6th generation, but you don't specify the 6th generation anywhere? You go walk into a store and you just go in a box, it just says iPad Pro.
I wish the generations matched like the each year it's like the new generation, right? So
Yeah.
you start with like the iPad Pro 10 or whatever, or whatever the year
Yeah.
was.
Just keep everything to the same number.
Yeah, to the same number, so that if they were all released in the same year, they're all the same generation number. That'd be a lot less confusing.
That would make too much sense.
Yeah, that would make too much sense. So I kind of wish that they had something like that, because looking at this, I'm like, I have no idea when these were released, what's like the newest version in comparison between like the Pro, the Air, and the Mini and the regular. So I'm like, that's a lot to think about and like keep straight in your head. So yeah, I
Name your products better, tech industry, please.
yeah, I will say, cheaper option, great affordability reasons. That's great. So if you're just trying to utilize the iPad for note taking or journaling or stuff like that, where it's like very basic utilization of this pencil, great option. I also like the charging on this a lot better than the first generation, because the first generation is you plug the pencil into your computer, into your iPad, like directly
Mm.
into it. So it's just sticking out of your iPad, like literally
Oh,
just
really?
yeah,
Like it had the plug built into the pen? Because I saw
yeah,
the USB-C one looks like it's like you just take a wire and you plug it into the wire.
yeah. It's
Plug
like
the wire into the
you
pencil.
have you have your iPad. Let me show
Mhm.
you a visual. You have your iPad. Say this is your iPad, and this
Yep.
is what it looks like. This is how it looks
That's
when it's
stupid.
charging. So
That's very stupid.
you literally just have a pen
You can't even
sticking
use
out.
you can't even use it while it's charging.
Yeah, you just have a
It's plugged
pen
into the bottom of
sticking
the.
out of your cube. It's not flush to it. It's not
That
on
is
the
very
side. It's
stupid.
really dumb. And so it's so ludicrously like set up. It's really weird. I would much rather have
Mhm.
like a cable that you connect
And
indirectly
then
so
that
that it's
way, if the
still
cable's long
wobbly.
enough, you can still use it while it's charging.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't like that at all. But this one, at the very least, it looks like you plug it in with a cable. You're not plugging it
Yeah.
in directly, and it also looks like you can stick this on with the magnet, and it'll be fine. I just don't think it charges through the magnet. But yeah, I think that this is a nicer product than the Gen One. I don't know. I don't know whether or not it would be a decent replacement for the Gen Two, but it's a starting point, I think.
Yeah.
And then the last topic, I guess, for today that I had was, I don't know where I have it open. Oh, there it is. Okay. The Apple backing National Right to Repair bill offering parts, manuals, and tools. So, this is where Apple is trying to advocate for the providing of these the ability to repair your own products, pretty much giving you manuals and offering parts and stuff like that to both specific Apple approved repair shops that are not affiliated with the company. Actually, no, it's just Apple non-affiliated repair shops, and then also individual customers. What do you think about that, Alex?
Good. The right to repair is aptly named because it should be a right. I shouldn't have to go to the stupid Apple store with an appointment to talk to the little guys behind the Genius Bar who have no idea what they're doing, and then they take my product and it sits there for 2 weeks, and I get it back and they charge me $800.
Yes,
So,
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm like, as long as it's, see, the thing that I see here though is they're just going to charge you so much money to do it yourself. So I don't think it's going to be more lucrative in terms of like savings. At least I don't think it's going to be hugely better to do this yourself. I think they're just going to charge you
I mean, even
all the
still,
way.
I mean, if you get Apple made parts though,
Yeah.
I mean, what's stopping you from just replacing them with third party parts? Nothing really. I mean, that's good. Is that gonna probably avoid your warranty or whatever? But I think I'd rather try and fix it myself for cheap rather than going, like I said, to Genius Bar and paying $700, even if it results in me having to fix it with a third party part or
Yeah.
something. I think just having the ability to fix it yourself is still
Yeah, so there are definitely going to
much
be
needed.
certain things that you wouldn't be able to replace yourself. For example, like their specific chips, right? So unless you have a
Yeah.
very old model like that's still using like an Intel board, or sorry, an Intel chip, that you might be able to replace yourself. It depends also on how far back these repair guides are going to be provided for. Like, are they going to provide the very early MacBooks and MacBook Airs and Pros and stuff like
I
that?
imagine
That
that older technology is not going to get grandfathered in.
yeah, because if they did, that would be fantastic.
Because they have to kind of redesign the whole thing. Because like the whole thing is that they like purposely design it so it's not easy for you to get inside
Right.
without going to help. Like there's no like visible screws you can unscrew. It's like one big piece of like plastic that they put together specifically using their proprietary stuff, and you can't really get into it. So like I don't think it's going to be super easy to grandfather older
I don't think
models
they're
in.
going to change that for future models, though. I think it's just if you're able to if you choose to break the ceiling on your device and
I
open it
feel like with
up.
the right to repair, that you should make it easy for you to be able to repair it
I
yourself.
don't think they're going to
Because
do that because it's also difficult to open up your
because
laptops in general. Like any
defeats the whole point
laptop,
of the right to repair if it's not easy for me to repair it.
well, any modern day laptop, it's still hard for you to open them up because they
Not
hide.
my
They either
laptops. They've
they
always had
either
easily accessible screws
depends.
on the
So
bottom
if
and
you
stuff.
if you buy
Yeah.
one that has easy access in terms of you're able to swap out RAM and stuff like that, right? There are products like that exist that are easier to customize, but there are ones that are also harder like the shells are designed in a way that they're not meant to come apart ever. So it depends on which product you're getting. There are definitely
I feel like it's counterintuitive to the right to repair. I feel like that has to change.
I don't think so,
Because you
honestly.
purposely have to, so I personally have to like break the shell of my laptop to be able to repair it myself seems stupid. Because then I'm just causing more problems. I should be easily able for me to do it, or at least make it more easier for third parties to do it. Like if I can't do it myself, fine. But if I can at least not have to go to Apple,
Right. Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
you
know. We'll
should
have
be
to
able to do it yourself. Like I shouldn't have to even. I feel like I shouldn't even have to go to a third party person who has like the specific device that requires me to open my laptop. I
yeah.
should just be able to do it. Because what's the point of me being able to giving me the right to repair it myself if it's not possible for me to repair it by myself?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see exactly what they do with that, because I honestly highly doubt we're ever gonna have visible screws again on an iPad, or like
Hmm.
specifically like their laptops or anything like that. I highly doubt that that's ever gonna be a thing in
Or
the
even if you
future.
don't do screws, just make it easy to open.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, but we'll have to wait and see on in terms of if they actually change their manufacturing or design process specifically for that. I don't think so. I
I
think
think it's all going to come down to what the law says.
yeah,
If the law tells them they have to do it, they will do it. If not,
right.
good luck opening your MacBooks.
Right. Because I mean, this relates specifically to the California's repair bill that was happening. I don't know if
Mm.
this was actually fully sent in and approved and everything like that, but that's what it's relating to. And I think that the idea in this article is that, well, if enough states try to pass this for all these different products, well, then they're just going to design them with that in mind, right? And
Yeah,
so that would be really cool to see, because it doesn't really make sense for them to provide one service to one state, a different service to a different state.
yeah,
So we'll have to wait and see what this actually means. I think the money making aspect of it is still going to be, well, selling their parts and all of that. Like, what kits are they actually going to provide to people? How
hmm,
expensive are they going to be? What do they mean by access to repair guides? Where exactly is that going to be located? Is that digital?
yeah.
Is that physical? How expensive? All of that stuff is going to come into play. But I think it's a positive in terms of having access to that, because I would
I
love
agree.
to be able to read through one of those manuals and be like, okay, what's actually going on under the hood here? How do I understand this? What is important for me as a enthusiast to learn and to be able to actually take this apart? So that'll be really
Hmm.
cool to see, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? Otherwise, I think this was our last topic.
No, I don't have any thoughts, but I can share with you my OMG facts calendar fact for today.
You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it.
For this is the OMG fact for Thursday, November 2nd. It's impossible to hum while holding your nose. You're not gonna try it for us, Albert?
No. You can try.
Okay, well,
You can try though.
I tried when I read it earlier. I don't need to try it again.
Do they mean like do they mean like holding your nose shut basically, or
That's what I assumed.
were you able to do it or no?
I mean, just you know what if it was like you know like when you're a frog, well not when you're a frog, but you know frogs.
Yeah.
You're aware of the concept of a frog.
I have heard of them before.
You know like when they go like ribbit and their cheeks blow up.
Yeah.
It's basically like that, except instead of your cheeks, it's your nose.
Oh, gotcha.
Because the air is trying to pass out your nose, so if you're
Mhm.
blocking it, it's just gonna,
That makes
you know,
sense. That does make sense.
yeah.
Can you
That's
hum
what
with
I learned
your
today.
Can you hum with your like lips open? Would that work?
Can you hum with your lips open? I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't see why not. Because mostly what it is just the air. The air is coming out your nose.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. It might be. I don't know if it's possible because the whole reason the air is coming out your nose is because your mouth is closed, right?
Well,
When you hum,
your
like
teeth are closed when you hum.
maybe you can hum with your lips open. I don't know.
Food for
I'm
thought.
not testing it right now.
Food for thought.
Food for thought. Comment below if you can hum with your lips open. That's how we know you made it to the end of the podcast.
Right. Alrighty, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this conversation. Let us know if you're a bit more knowledgeable about some of these Apple products. I don't know what just happened there.
Are you okay? Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Are you good?
Yes, I'm good. I just need water right after we finish recording.
Okay. Thank you for watching, guys. Albert's got to go.
All right. Bye, everyone.